G'day everyone. Yes, it's Monday night again, and that means it's CLUBMAP. And tonight we're talking about AI in community sport, how clubs are using AI to make life easier. I'm Mark Campbell, one of the co-founders of CLUBMAP, and I'm joined ably tonight by John Knudsen, who's our COO, who keeps the wheels turning in CLUBMAP land. But before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, wherever we happen to be in Australia, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. So AI in community sport, it's a pretty big deal, this, and it's getting bigger as every day goes by. So speaking of technology, jump into the chat if you haven't already, and let us know which club you're from. And you could also use that as a little questionnaire device. We'll get to the Q&A later in the presentation. And also just a reminder to stay on mute so that we don't hear, as you get called to dinner or whether you want to top up. So yeah, CLUBMAP. We've been around for, 10 years. Our actual anniversary is coming up in February, but we were operating well before that. Over that time, the numbers here might be a little bit outdated, but we've certainly helped more than 3,500 local and grassroots clubs across the country, right up to first-tier sports, in fact, get a little bit better at thriving and not be concentrating so much on just surviving. And along the way, we've worked with well over 100 governing bodies, leagues, associations and councils, and people who are interested in helping out grassroots clubs. So that's sort of some of the housework out of the way. What I'd really like to do is just take you very, very quickly through the agenda for tonight. First of all, what is AI? How does it work? How can it help us? That's all sort of in the first part. John's going to take us through all this stuff. He's pretty clued up on it. He's also going to take us through how clubs are using AI, and there's lots of things that you can do. Tools and responsible use, and this whole responsible use thing is just gaining traction as every day passes. And then we'll finish off with a little bit about us and CLUBMAP and how we can help you out. Bit of discussion about that, and of course our famous Q&A where you can jump in and grill us and find out what's actually going on in your world and how we can help. So I'm going to throw it across to John now, and we might even be heading towards a poll, are we, mate?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Evening, everyone. Hope you're all well. As we do each and every webinar or workshop, we'd just like to get a bit of a lay of the land poll style. So hopefully that has popped up on your screen. Just a few questions about AI at your clubs. Are you using it currently? Which platforms are you using? You can select any of those. If you're not using ChatGPT, if you're using something similar or the like, feel free to tick any of those. And then what area of your club do you hope to improve with AI, if any, out of tonight or moving forward? So yeah, we'll give that a minute or so to populate. But yeah, it'd just be really good to get an understanding of where everyone's at with AI already. And I mean, you're probably already using AI in some form or another, whether it's for your clubs. But yeah, I think ultimately tonight we just want to show you how you can use AI to help your club just make life a little bit easier. We don't claim to be AI experts by any stretch of the imagination. We use AI just like most other people, but at the same time, we've seen how clubs are already using it, and our clubs are using it as well. So we're just taking that and passing on the information as best we can. So hopefully out of tonight, you can take a couple of tips, as with any of our topics, and back to your clubs and just to make life a little bit easier overall. So I might just hit end on that poll. Hopefully everyone's finished. And share the results just for a quick squiz. So is your club using AI currently? Only a handful using it regularly, which is good. Occasionally, about a third or so, not really, nearly half, and unsure probably fits into that category as well. So probably nearly, if not more than half are not really using AI, which again, hopefully why you're here, and could be able to implement one or two things after tonight. What platforms, ChatGPT or Canva or other AI assistant or AI design tools are by far and away the most popular there. A couple of people are using note takers or recorders like Otter AI, and then a smattering of other options underneath. And what areas of your club do you hope to improve? Admin is the clear winner there, and fairly consistent about across all the other options, to be fair, which is good. So, yeah. Again, if you fit into one of those categories, you're not quite using it already, or there's some options there that you're not quite aware of. Hopefully, you can get a few tips out of tonight. Let me just get rid of that. Mark, did you want to kick us off with the intro, I guess?
Yeah. Look, it won't be any surprise to anybody who's on this session tonight that volunteers are stretched. I mean, that's been the way of volunteering and club life for as long as anyone can remember. But and AI, is it going to save us? Well, it could do. But there's things that it's suited to and things that it's not. Some of the things that it is particularly well suited to is admin, ticking all those compliance boxes and reporting and that sort of stuff. You can automate a lot of this sort of stuff and help yourself if you know your way around it. As it says there, it's not a fad; it's an actual tool, but it does take some knowledge and understanding to use it correctly and to make sure that you're. We spoke before about using it responsibly. We're going to cover that later on. It is a real opportunity for clubs. And so as John takes you through, I think you'll find yourself nodding along and thinking, yeah, we can do that. So, mate, why don't we jump into it and find out what's going on with AI?
Yeah, I think if we strip it right back, what is AI? AI is effectively just a tool. It is a really big beast now, and we're not going to go too deep into deep dark corners at all. But overall, it's just a productivity tool, a bit like a power drill, but for admin. Instead of turning screws by hand, you're just speeding up the process. Many of you are probably using ChatGPT already from the poll, or some other tools. However, and even if you're not using that, you've probably been using some form of AI for a while. Everything from predictive text on your phone, spell check in Word is a form of AI. Siri has been around since 2011, so believe it or not. And what has changed, particularly putting the community sport lens on it, is ChatGPT and other tools, Canva and so on and so forth, which we'll get to a little bit later, just make it so much easier for community clubs to draft, communicate, and create in minutes instead of hours. And that's the shift that we want to implement. And again, and we'll probably say this a few times before the end of tonight, it's about supporting volunteers, not replacing them. I don't think AI will ever it will ever replace volunteers, but it's just making life a little bit easier. It has come a long way, particularly in the last 18 months. It feels like everything's been pushed into fast forward, and there are a lot of myths around. Most importantly, the theory is that you have to be tech savvy. Anyone can use it with the right prompts, basically, which we'll spend a bit of time on tonight. That it will replace people, as I just said, it just makes your job easier, and it's really expensive. Many tools, and the handful that we'll go through later on, either are free or have really cheap options. Particularly if you're going down the path of using them to secure more grants or implement more fundraising initiatives or sponsorship proposals or lots of things. In a roundabout way, they're going to pay for themselves many times over if used correctly. So that's the theory behind paid versions. For many clubs out there, a paid ChatGPT subscription would be a fair investment, but for some clubs, it's a drop of the bucket. So it's up to your club and your situation as to where you might fit within the price ranges. But most of the free options are more than enough for clubs out there. Mark, did you want to get into this one?
Couldn't think of anything I'd rather do, John. How clubs are using AI. So, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, and if you're following the news and you've got socials and all that sort of stuff, you see all this crazy stuff pop up on your Facebook Reels or your Instagram feed or whatever. We're talking about real tools that you can employ in your club to make life easier. And admin and operations is what it's all about. Okay, so once you've got your head around a little bit, you'll think it'll be like anything else that you've come to know and love. You're going to think, how in the hell did we ever do this without it? So things like governance and policies, which can get people yawning, are vitally important when you're running a successful and a club that's actually going places. It can make the difference. So revenue and fundraising are the other part of that. We've got to get money through the door, and it's amazing how AI can make a difference to that. So this is really where the rubber hits the road, and John's going to take us through those three areas right now.
Yeah, so what we're going to do here is we've basically pulled a bunch of different things that we're already seeing clubs use AI for into those three buckets. The first is admin and operations. This is where we see it have I guess the quickest of wins for clubs. Most of the jobs that chew up a bit of time every week, sitting here, writing posts, planning events, sending reminders, building rosters for canteens, and all that sort of stuff. AI can help you automate or speed up the first, call it 70% of the work, leaving the volunteers to just polish and post or send out or share or whatever it is. I've got to preface all of this stuff. Whatever we talk about tonight is by no means, and I'll probably repeat this as well, don't copy and paste. Just make sure you run your eyes over it, edit it to suit, all that sort of thing, whatever is produced by AI. Think about how much time is spent on writing team announcements on a Thursday or Friday if your club has that sort of thing. Promoting fundraisers or functions, drafting reminder emails or newsletters, wrangling volunteer rosters, committee meeting minutes, putting together surveys or forms or whatever else needs to be done. AI is there to handle the grunt work of these tasks. With ChatGPT, you can write a team announcement post in a matter of seconds. Canva, you can then use Canva AI tools to then generate a matching social media tile without touching Photoshop, and no real editing skills needed. You can then ask it to write your meeting agenda based on last month's meeting minutes. If you want to record meetings, we'll go into this one. There was a question about it. Otter AI can automatically generate transcripts and notes and actions of your in-person and online meetings. It starts to flow from there. Volunteer onboarding is a big one, particularly in the space that we're working one-on-one with clubs. And volunteer onboarding and making it more appealing to volunteers is always a big hurdle. You can ask AI to tailor role descriptions and quick welcome packs for canteen helpers and timekeepers and those little jobs on game day or whatever needs doing. Even produce a professional volunteer handbook with background of the club, bit of history, main contacts, policies, important dates, fixtures, any other info they might need. You can put all that in and get a fairly succinct but professional outcome. The key to all of this is to start small. I wouldn't start with this whole list and whatever we talk about the rest of the night all at once, but just pick out a couple of things and start to use those and gain a bit of momentum that way. As we go through these few topics, I just wanted to put up a quick prompt suggestion. I'll come back to this a little bit later, but prompting is probably the most important thing out of this whole topic. One of the most useful things is something like event promotion. Instead of starting from scratch, your social media person or whoever's involved with that could post a prompt into ChatGPT, something like, please write a social media post, always got to be polite, please write a social media post promoting our Trevor Unite fundraiser, including time, location, table booking link, and a friendly call to action, date, booking link, etc. This will give a clean draft copy straight back to the social media person straight away. They can then use Canva AI to produce the tile, job done in a matter of minutes, as opposed to a little bit longer. You can then take it away and produce a few different tiles and a few different messages from ChatGPT. As you get closer to the date, use Meta Business, the back end, to share it to Facebook and Instagram, and schedule it accordingly a few days out for the reminder and all that sort of thing. You can also ask for a longer version for a newsletter, or a direct email that goes to your whole database. You can then forward that on to the person who does the emails or the newsletter if it's a different person within your club. You can also ask for a more polished version if your club's usually utilizing LinkedIn. You can perhaps ask for donations as the call to action, as opposed to that. Obviously, LinkedIn is a little bit more, is that professional online space. So for that target market, you might be looking at a slightly different message. You might be looking for donations from businesses and that sort of thing. So a whole marketing campaign can be, it's not anything in depth, but a whole marketing campaign can be done in a matter of an hour or so, if that, and not days or weeks, and going across multiple different people. So just a really good example of what can be done from what is a fairly succinct prompt there. And obviously going back to that list of admin and operations, like there is plenty that can be done week in, week out using AI. The next one is governance and policies, a fairly dry topic for most people, but it can be a bit of a game changer. These tend to be the tasks that get pushed to the side at the end of the year or the season or the event, when you do have a bit of time to review all these sort of things, but it can be really time consuming to review your constitution or your rules or your code of conduct, or introduce new policies or procedures, that sort of thing. It is really good for doing all of those things, particularly ChatGPT or any of the other AI assistants. Great for meeting minutes and agendas. AI can help review these, suggest changes consistent, talking about the policies, obviously, suggest changes with modern standards and legislation, and even draft a new starting point for whether it be rules, constitutions, policies, etc. So recently we used ChatGPT to review some constitutions and rules. It can summarize clauses, reword them for clarity, particularly for implementation or for sharing in a special general meeting, as an example. It can also look at risk management plans and emergency response plans and all these sort of things that just get ignored or don't have time for. So it can, the most important thing out of this is, particularly with governance and policies, is control. I'll probably repeat this, but AI drafts the stuff, the committee approves it. It doesn't replace the formal process. It just makes it faster to get to a bit of a clean draft stage, particularly with the governance and policies things. And if we've got a bit of time at the end, we'll come back to this, but just a quick prompt suggestion here. Please write a plain English code of conduct for a football netball club, just as an example, that covers respect, behaviour, inclusivity and safety. Make sure it's relevant, meets modern standards and legislation. Insert your state here, because it does vary. Also, could you, a quick tip as well is, could you add on something like, could you suggest anything we could add, child safety, etc., into something like this? So that might be in the back and forth with the prompting, but out of this, you should get a really solid draft that the committee can then take away, tweak, approve, and you don't have to write it from scratch, just review it, basically. So that's governance and policies. And the last one is revenue and fundraising. Tends to move the needle, particularly financially for clubs. Grant writing and sponsorships are vital for all community clubs, but they take time, and a lot of clubs just don't have that time. Grants tend to be the one that gets pushed to the side. If you've tuned into any of our grants webinars, that's often what we back over. You can, with utilizing AI, you can write better and faster applications for grants and sponsorship proposals, introductory letters, welcome letters for sponsors, even if you're not confident copywriters within your club. Whether it's grant application responses, sponsorship proposal templates, fundraising event copy, like the example I showed earlier. If you're looking at running an Australian Sports Foundation campaign, the tug on the heartstrings and the the ask is really important for your campaign to gain momentum for whatever it is you're raising money for, and being able to feed that into ChatGPT or any of the AI assistants is really important, and it can come up with some really powerful messages for your fundraising campaign, whether it's the main landing page or any of your communications about, say, the Australian Sports Foundation or whatever it is. So for sponsorships, you can ask AI to write the opening statement for a proposal, a list of benefits for the business that you're approaching, even draft the outline for a pitch deck for whoever's meeting with the potential business. It does take that 1 to 2 to 3 hour task and make it a short 10-minute task. And then, as I said before, if you're combining ChatGPT with Canva and maybe running Grammarly over it at the end, you've got a really polished professional piece of communication ready to go out to potential sponsors, partners, funders, donors, etc. So yeah, really, really important to have a look at that one. And again, just another quick prompt suggestion. If you've sat in any of our grants webinars, you've probably seen something like this. We've run this one before, but please write a 200-word grant application paragraph for club name in response to a question asking what we're applying for. We are seeking $50,000 to upgrade our netball court lighting, as an example. And then you obviously want to emphasize what you want to emphasize as part of why you're applying for that grant: community impact, player safety, extended participation opportunities, which is really important for most grants, benefits of evening training, keep the tone confident and community focused. So we'll come back to prompting in a second, but again, just the more information you put in, the more context, the better the result you're going to get out of that. And this is going to give you a really professional structured paragraph that you can edit accordingly and then just drop straight into your application. So next is prompting, and if you take nothing out of tonight, nothing else out of tonight, sorry, prompting is number one. It is the most important part of AI is the information that you feed in. We just showed you a few quick examples, but AI basically is only as good as the information or the instructions that you give it overall. Really important is detail. So what you need, any specifics, dates, amounts, targets, games, event details, fundraising, vision and projects, whatever you're doing. Context is really important. Who you are, what the situation is, what it's for, any other background information you can give. And then tone and format is really important as well. So how do you want it to sound? Do you want it to be professional? Do you want it to be formal? Do you want it to be friendly and engaging? The format that you want it to spit out for you. Do you want it to be paragraphs that you can just chop and change? Do you want it to be dot points? Do you want it to be long prose, etc.? If needed as well, a really good tip is to offer, like for like examples or something to replicate. You can always upload files or images or PDFs to get it, to get what you want out of it. You can ask for revisions and go back and forth a few times as well. Don't just accept the first thing that AI gives you. Ultimately, if you are vague, you're going to get vague out of it. So we've got another couple of prompt examples here, but what we're doing with this one is basically giving you a vague version and a good version. They're probably at two ends of the scale. One's very, very vague and one's very, very good, or maybe not very good, but it's decent. Please write copy for a post promoting the football and netball games this weekend. Zero context, no information, who they're playing, where they're playing, what club you're involved with, etc. So you get the point there. Write some copy for a short and upbeat social media post for club name, promoting our round 7 home games against this club this Saturday at time and venue. Include a line encouraging supporters to come down and a friendly sign off from the club. So lots of information, lots of detail, lots of context, good prompt. You're going to get a decent response out of this as opposed to the vague one. And another example, so similar to the one that we just showed before, write a good grant application for $50,000. Where do I start? What information do you do? what question am I answering? And then obviously the good prompt is the example that we showed before. And then you can include revisions. So please simplify the language, keeping it confident and professional. So one thing that ChatGPT and others can be, for want of a better word, guilty of is being a bit waffly. So you can ask it to simplify the language, sounds a bit more club-like, a bit more human as well. So always remember that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just need to give AI enough to work with for what you want out of it, which is really important to remember. The last little tip particularly with prompting and where you want to take AI, and you'll get the opportunity, we'll come back to this a little bit later, but some clubs are actually using our club health check now to sort of identify the areas where they can have the quick wins with AI for their clubs. So this is an example of a footy netball club that we worked with a while ago, fairly typical of a club that we work with. You can obviously see that they've got some room for improvement, particularly with planning, with volunteers, fundraising, and grants. So there's some opportunities there for them. You can then dive a little bit deeper in the individual questions within those topics, and you can sort of see that there's a lot of opportunities with volunteers, not much of an ongoing volunteer program or any onboarding. So you could perhaps say, right, quick win, we're going to use AI to produce some role descriptions and a volunteer handbook. Fundraising, they're not utilising tax deductible donations. So Australian Sports Foundation, we can use that to produce a blurb that can tug on the heartstrings, same example as I used before, highlight the need for whatever we need and progress there. So and a couple of examples, and then grants, obviously there's some opportunities there, and we've mentioned a couple already. So this means that you're not just trying AI randomly. You've got some opportunities already within your club, and you've identified them, and you can sort of target them and implement it where the need is, basically. So hopefully that's that. So that's just a bit of an area of where clubs are using it already. And then the third part, if you want to steer us into this one, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, John. So I mean, there's a lot in what John has just spoken about, but there's probably no point that's more important about AI use, and that's using the right tool for the right job. You can get stuck in saying, "Oh, I just do everything through ChatGPT." Well, you could come undone. But the other part of it is responsible use, and we want to make sure, because it is just a tool that you can use, but you have to be careful about the way you use it, and you have to be careful about the information that it supplies to you. So as John has already mentioned, you don't want to be blindly accepting everything that it tells you, and you've got to be careful that you're not sort of unwittingly using perhaps somebody else's work, somebody else's IP, all of those sorts of things. So it's a great tool for guidance, but if we start just taking everything that it says as holy writ, we could find ourselves in some trouble. So that's just a little warning, but John will take us through a few of the nuts and bolts of that situation now.
Yeah, thanks. So what we've done here is we've just identified half a dozen AI tools, and there's similar out there, obviously, for different areas. The first three that I'll go through are what I think probably need to haves, and then the other three are probably nice to haves if you don't have anything else in place. So we'll start with ChatGPT. If you're not using it already, it's great for generating content quickly, posts, grant application responses, policies, emails, a lot of the stuff we mentioned previously. It's great for writing drafts and reviewing documents, and the free version is plenty for most club users. And it does work best when you use clear prompts and give it information and context. Canva AI tools, if you haven't used Canva before, really powerful web cloud-based design app. If you've got no design skills whatsoever, you can produce fairly good social media or design tiles or graphics and videos using AI tools used through Canva. It's got a lot of templates built in already, but you can just use their AI tools to build whatever you want. Again, you do have to be quite specific with what you want out of it, and using things like your club colors and your club logo, actually telling it what it is. You can drag and drop all those sort of things, but then you can utilize other AI apps within Canva as well to generate text and the video and anything else you need. So really powerful tool. We use Canva for just about everything, but their AI tools are really good to use in conjunction with ChatGPT and some of the others. The third one there is Otter AI. I use Otter AI for all meetings and both in person and online. It automatically transcribes and meetings and conversations that you're having. Great for AGMs, committee meetings, interviews, player interviews. Disciplinary hearings if you have to record and transcribe those. Captures details fairly accurately, even in person. It can recognize, we've tested it with, up to about half a dozen different voices, and it grabs everything. It's pretty amazing how it can do that. Even with you heard of some clubs that have used it for AGMs, and it's really good at picking up voices far away and things like that. So it captures all the details accurately, and the free tier works for most clubs. If you're using it for longer meetings, then you might have to pay for an updated version. An upgraded version for say an AGM or something that might go for a little bit longer. But really powerful tool, and you can then. It gives you full transcription, can summarize minutes and action items as well, and then you can just copy all of that and paste it into ChatGPT and use that to then formulate your meeting minutes, and then also out of that produce the next month's agenda in a matter of minutes. Again, we did have a couple of questions come out of the registrations about the best way to record minutes of meetings and record meeting conversations and transcribe them into minutes. So I highly recommend utilizing both Otter and ChatGPT for that. There's a lot of other options out there. Read AI is Microsoft's version. I'm not a fan of it. It's got some bugs in it, but if you're using that, then so be it. It's great. It's fine, I guess. Fathom's another one, but there's plenty of options out there for recording meeting minutes. But I've just found that using Otter and ChatGPT together is the best way to do it, particularly for club things, for club use, like a committee meeting and minutes and all that sort of stuff. And then the next three, I think, are nice to have, particularly Notion AI. Really good if you're a larger club. Meeting notes, storing everything, tasks lists, planning. It's a productivity tool and planning app, basically. Use words. It's great for essentially online whiteboarding overall. Managing volunteer roles, tasks, all sorts of things. A project management tool is the words I was looking for. Again, free plan is enough for clubs, but a really powerful tool. Again, probably for larger clubs that do a bit of that sort of stuff in an off season or something like that. And you can great way to keep everything in one place. Wix is something that's really come a long way, particularly in the last few months. They have an AI website builder now. So Wix has been really good, one of the leaders in the space for, I guess, drag and drop website development recently without any coding or anything like that. But now they've got an AI tool where you basically just feed in, again, all the information, really detailed prompts, exactly what you want to get out of it, structure, etc. And it'll produce a professional website for your club. Simple editing interface to change the images out, put your text in and what you need, but it can produce the full structure, design and fonts and colors, etc., based on your prompts. So if you don't have a website out there, it is relatively cheap compared to web development, but it is an option. If you don't have a website, you can go through that, use the AI prompts and get a fairly professional website. And then the last one is Grammarly, great for just running eyes over any piece of copy, emails, constitutions, policies, procedures, anything like that. Just polishes and tidies up your work. I see a lot of clubs, particularly this time of year, because we do. I follow a lot of football netball clubs because that's what the space I played in for a long time, and you see a lot of really important, whether it be re-signing announcements or we've just signed a new player announcement, new netball coach or something like that. And then you've got a really poorly written announcement that's, not nowhere near grammatically correct. I just think there's an opportunity there to use something like Grammarly just to make it look so much more professional even for a local club. It gives it that polish that I think it needs. So great option there. So there's just a few options. Obviously we've got to put a lot into tonight, but I think there's a really good starting point with those 6 options. And whether it's an AI assistant like ChatGPT, there's other options. Same with Canva, there's other design options as well. We've just put together the easiest to use, most popular, and they all have free or cheaper options as well. And then I guess the responsible use part is so important. We've both mentioned it tonight a few times. There are some cautions that need to be thrown out when using AI. There's little yellow flags that pop up from time to time, like copying and pasting direct from ChatGPT, to big red flags where you are producing content that misquotes people or produces false information. AI can be a bit funny with dates and times and things like that and amounts. So a tip is always fact check everything, either yourself or you can ask ChatGPT, can you fact check that? And sometimes it'll come back and say, oh, sorry, that was the wrong year, or, just be careful. It can make mistakes, particularly with numbers, I've found as well. So, and even more so when you are vague with prompts. So the more context and information you give in the prompts, generally the better answers you get. Copy and pasting and sending, I would strongly recommend not to do that. People are really good at sniffing out AI written copy straight away. It can eat away at trust. Things like American spelling with a lot of Z's and everything. M dashes is a classic yellow flag with AI. So you can weave these into your prompts. Please use Australian English and no M dashes. So M dash is the long hyphen. And keep it aligned with your club's values. So make sure that whatever you're doing, the tone, the wording, the content that you put out sounds like your club. It's not corporate, it's not too over the top, and it just aligns with everything else that you're putting out. So it's really, really important there. And then privacy and sensitivity does matter. I'll come back to this a little bit later. There was quite a few conversations. There wasn't quite a few questions about this, but ultimately don't feed it personal or internal info that you wouldn't otherwise put on the internet is a really good starting point. Overall, think of AI as an assistant. It does the first draft, the committee or the club or the representative does the final sign off, and that's the balance that makes it really powerful for clubs, and not an issue, basically. You want to build trust, not erode it within your members, your stakeholders, your sponsors, your partners, whatever it is. So you want to build that trust. So what we suggest is to start small, pick one task. For most clubs, it's a social media post or a grant application or something like that. Quick wins. Get 1 or 2 people comfortable with it within your club. You don't need the whole committee on board from day one. Just ensure that those who are driving the AI aren't swamped with other jobs as well. If they're looking after grants, ideally that's their only gig. Build a few reusable prompts. I like the cheat sheet that we've got in our resources hub. Share the quick wins with other volunteers to then get the buy-in there, show them how it saves time overall. Keep it simple and keep it repeatable as well. So again, it's all about doing things faster and saving a bit of time for committees, not about replacing any of your volunteers. You just want to make life easier. So again, we could probably do 45 minutes, Mark, I reckon, all of these different little topics. We could probably do 45 minutes on ChatGPT and so on and so forth, but hopefully you got a few things out of that. As we do each and every webinar, we just like to highlight how we can help and give you a little bit of an update. If your club does need some assistance, some direction, some support in some ways, yeah, we're here to help. Just a quick grants update before I'll throw to you, Mark. Sorry. The Sporting Club Grants Program in Victoria opened up the other day, so that's a really good opportunity. And our services, for our workshops and things like that, do fall under the criteria there. So if you're looking to work with us, there's an opportunity. Same with the Gambling Community Benefit Fund that closes in a couple of days. So if you're in Queensland and you want some support, there's an opportunity there, and a lot of those other grants are open year round. So yeah, we'll have an opportunity to tick the box a little bit later. But Mark, do you want to go through how we can help if clubs do need some support?
Yeah, you bet. There's no better starting point for help than the online health check, because as it says there, you can't fix something if you don't know what's wrong. And something that's probably pretty true of most of us when we first get involved with running a club is that we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of people have pointed out to us, just not only getting the results from the health check, but just doing the health check has given people so many insights into the way their club operates. And they think, I wouldn't have even known to ask a question like that. And yet here it is in the health check. So I would say to everyone who's on this session tonight, do yourself a favour, as Molly Meldrum used to say, and get on board with the health check, because it will just enlighten you on perhaps what's possible, and it'll certainly guide you in some directions that will be of benefit to your club. But once you get through the health check, it's like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, blah, blah, blah. All the answers that you need to be able to respond to the actions that the health check points you towards are available in the CLUBMAP Resources Hub. So for an individual, $49. And it's less than $1 a week, and you just dip into it any old time because it's there on your phone. You just search up the topic that you want to find out about. You can see them flipping through there on the right side of the screen. It's a ripper, because it sort of distilled all of those things that we talk about in our much bigger presentations and just makes them available to you in your pocket. So I can't impress upon you enough how important it is to have, or not, well, it is important, yeah, but it's just handy to have that easy reference in your pocket at all times. But if you want to go for the doctor, there's nothing quite like the planning workshop. And this is where people and clubs and committees can come and sit in an online session. If you've got all or most of your committee in an online session with us in one of these workshops, it's amazing what can happen, because people can see the big picture and they think, oh, we can do all of these things to change, rearrange our club and sort of put a formula to it and get things really up and going. Now, there's a scary number there, $2,999 plus GST. And I always point this out because one of the things about the clubs that get involved with our workshops is that they realise just how easy it becomes to run their clubs, but also changes their revenue situation. Suddenly they've got all of these tools available to them to actually bring more revenue into the club. So return on investment on that $2,999 plus GST is absolutely startling. So yeah, if you've got a few shekels available, I would guide you towards that. And we can also talk about making grants available to help you do it. Let's hear what Luke's got to say, because he's got a fabulous story.
I don't feel any burnout. I'm excited for the club. I'm excited for my role. First season that I was president, I wasn't with CLUBMAP, and I found I was doing a lot of the stuff myself. I think my original plan was to aim for around 5 years as president when I sort of got into it. To be honest, if the job is this easy, which it's made it easy for me, I could be around for a lot longer. Having a support in my committee at the moment, they're all behind me. And I think that the CLUBMAP structure and resources has given them confidence to get behind me as well. It's less daunting for them to take on jobs because it's one specific role. They're all over it. They just want to jump in and help, and which is great. Yeah, after having a chat with the guys from CLUBMAP, I presented it to the committee and we jumped in.
He's a ripper, Luke. And they've got a great club down there. And they're doing what we suggest, which is sharing the load. Instead of somebody or a few people wearing lots and lots of hats, everybody's got their role. They commit to that role. They stay in their lane. They're responsible for what they do, and everybody gets on and gets it done. So if you want to get on board with the workshop option, and I suggest that you do, lots of clubs fund their workshops, and they find that that's a fine thing to do. Lots of other clubs think, oh no, it might be better to get on board with a grant, and we can help you do that. Prepare your grant application so that you can then use the monies that come from that successful application, if you are successful, to fund that workshop at no cost to your club. So that's kind of the story. Apart from ClubHub, do we want to talk about that now, John, or would you rather do a poll?
The poll's up and running. Hopefully everyone can see that. So yeah, just if you do want support, obviously we're going to be here every second Monday, rain, hail or shine. Happy for you to hit no thanks and get some information or something like that later on. But if your club does need some support, tick the box. Even if you want to do a free club health check, tick the box there as well. Great exercise to go through just to get an understanding of where things are at. And yeah, Club Hub is just an opportunity. If you're involved with a governing body, a league, an association, state or national body, that's just an opportunity to support your clubs en masse. So yeah, a really powerful program and access to the hub and some ongoing education and all sorts of stuff. So we can have a chat about that if you wish as well. So feel free to reach out to us or go to the website there as well. Couple of upcoming webinars. The last one's for the calendar year, philanthropic funding with Elite Sports Philanthropy. Rob and his team been good friends of CLUBMAP for a long time, and it's probably about time that we did one of these because there is a huge opportunity there with philanthropic funding for community sport. So that's in a couple of weeks, and then infrastructure and facilities on the 1st of December, which we'll have Paul Adding on board for again. He's the guru in the infrastructure and facility space for community clubs. So registrations are open on the website for those now, I believe. And yeah, you can get involved with those. So we might apologize. We have gone a few minutes over time tonight, but hopefully you got a few tips out of it. We'll get to a couple of questions quickly, and I did see quite a few come through the chat as well. So we'll get to a few. Apologies, we've got a few minutes over, but we've tried to pile in a bit of extra information tonight, and it is the first time we've done this topic as well. So on a Monday night. So hopefully you got a few tips out of it. Mark, you had a couple of questions, I think, from the registrations that we'll start with, perhaps.
I do, John. I've got one here from Peter, and I don't have a club. I've only got Peter's in Victoria, but
Yep.
Are there grants to provide software subscriptions for products such as Canva for community clubs or ways that we can get a discount?
Yes, in short, yes. Usually called digital adaptation grants or something similar to that. Sometimes they fall into the small business grant category, but not-for-profits and incorporated associations are all eligible to apply. A lot of clubs aren't aware of that one. Not always sports specific though, so tends to be a broader brush with the guidelines. Victoria had one a while ago. Hasn't been available for a couple of years though. But you can apply through. I know the Sport and Rec. Sporting Club Grants program that just opened. There is a category that covers digital platforms and things like that. So it's often a really good one to tack on to another application for something else. So a lot of the state grants do have digital adaptation or digital platforms as a category. So just double check the funding categories and what can be funded as well within each grant. But a lot of the state ones do. But it's often a little dot point at the bottom. So always check the guidelines. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
I've got another one here, and actually this one is sort of characteristic of a few that came through. But Tony asks, how protected is the club's data when you're using AI products?
Yeah, Probably a really good question. I think it was Adam asked something similar in the chat as well. Yeah, there's a couple. I think there was a couple of questions in that one. But yeah, really good question. Particularly free versions. There tends to be less security with free versions. So I think I mentioned it quickly in the slides. Never recommend sharing personal, sensitive, or financial data with AI platforms. Overall, you can put, I guess, either holding, in brackets or something like that in there. Be vague with what it's for, perhaps. Sorry, not vague in your prompt, but put some holding text in there. Overall, it's not automatically protected. I mean, even membership platforms like, if you're involved with Play HQ and that's your sports platform, there's data breaches. That risk is there all the time, but unfortunately, public AI tools don't often have the same privacy settings as, particularly with free versions. Overall, use it like a digital assistant. Don't use it as a storing device for personal or sensitive data, and then you're pretty safe. It's great for writing and planning, but not for storing private information, basically. As a general rule, you feel a bit more secure with the bigger tools like Canva, like ChatGPT, that have been around for a while and have a good name and are popular, particularly with the paid versions. But overall, if you don't want it on the internet, don't put it on the internet, would be my advice to just about everything. That would be probably a safe way to go about it. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Just scrolling through the chat as well quickly, Mark. I saw Pauline. I agree. Don't always use the emojis that ChatGPT uses. I agree with that. Kate asked, sorry, I missed yours, Kate. AI can build canteen rosters. ChatGPT is great for that. It can produce a spreadsheet or however you want it to come out as. So whether you wanted a dot point list or out as a spreadsheet or anything like that, it's really good at producing anything like that. So as a starting point, it'd be fine for something like that. We might wrap it up there. We have gone a few minutes over, but hopefully you got a few tips out of tonight, and maybe some guidance on how to use AI within your clubs. Obviously, it wasn't a really deep dive, but just some broad brush tips on how to use it, and use it with caution, obviously, as we've mentioned quite a few times. So big thanks to Mark for steering the ship as always, giving up your time on a Monday evening, and to everyone else for tuning in. Thank you. If you wanted some help or you tick the box for some assistance, we'll be in touch in the next couple of days. And if not, we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks for philanthropic funding. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weeks, and hopefully your club, your team, your sport is going well.
Thanks, everybody.